Tim Tebow's life seemed destined for greatness, a star athlete, a role model, and a beacon of hope for millions. But behind the cheers and admiration, Tebow faced struggles that would test even the strongest of spirits. From his miraculous survival at birth to devastating personal losses and an eventual fall from grace, Tebow's journey is one of triumphs overshadowed by tragedy. When did it all go wrong, and what does his life look like today? Stick around as we uncover the tragic fate of Tim Tebow. The life of Tim Tebow. Tim Tebow's story is one of ups and downs. It's a story of a boy who worked hard, became a football star, and faced challenges at every turn. He was a hero in college, but struggled in professional sports. Timothy Tebow was born on August 14, 1987, in Makati, Philippines. He was the youngest of 5 children. His parents, Bob and Pamela Tebow, were missionaries spreading their faith in the Philippines. They had met back in college at the University of Florida, and after tying the knot in the early 70s, they set off to make a difference overseas. But while in the Philippines, things took a dramatic turn. Pamela fell seriously ill with amoebic dysentery and even slipped into a coma. When she recovered, she got some surprising news. She was pregnant with Tim. Because of the medication Pamela had been on, doctors warned her about severe complications. Before Tim was born, doctors told his mother to have an abortion because they believed the baby would not survive, something that wasn't legal in the Philippines at the time. The doctors expected him to be stillborn because he had a life-threatening disease. The Tebows, however, held firm in their beliefs and refused. And so, on August 14, 1987, Tim Tebow made his grand entrance into the world. It wasn't exactly smooth sailing, but he made it. Against all odds, Tim was born healthy. When he was 3, he packed up and left the Philippines, settling in Jacksonville, Florida. Tim grew up in a home where faith, education, and good character were the most important things. He was the youngest of 5 siblings. His parents, who believed it was their duty to teach about God, character, and academics in that order, homeschooled him and his siblings. Tim struggled with dyslexia, a learning disorder, but his parents helped him overcome it. They taught him to never give up, a lesson he carried throughout his life. Because of the circumstances surrounding his birth, Tim established a foundation in 2010 that has been serving hundreds of children with special needs. In 1996, Florida passed a law allowing homeschooled students to play sports for local schools as long as they lived in that school's district. This gave Tim a big chance to play football. At first, he played tight end for Trinity Christian Academy. Later, his family moved to St. Johns County, and Tim joined Nice High School. Nice wasn't known for being good at football, but that changed with Tim on the team. He was tall, strong, and determined. Tim was a force to be reckoned with, not just because of his skills, but also his sheer determination. In one game during his junior year, he played the second half with a broken fibula. Yes, you heard that right, a broken fibula. He even managed to rush for a 29-yard touchdown. Of course, once the game was over, he had to sit out the rest of the season, but by then, he'd already made a name for himself. By his junior year, Tim broke Florida high school passing records. He won the Florida Player of the Year award. In his senior year, he led Nice to a state championship. Tim's talent brought attention to his school, and college coaches from all over the country came to watch him play. He was named Florida's Mr. Football and was one of the best high school players in the nation. He also made it to the U.S. Army All-American Bowl, a big deal for high school football stars, and appeared in an ESPN documentary called Tim Tebow, The Chosen One. The spotlight wasn't just on his skills, but also on his homeschooling background and missionary work. And if you think homeschooling and football don't mix, Tim proved otherwise when he became the first homeschooled athlete to be nominated for the Heisman Trophy. He even joked about it, saying, "A lot of times people think homeschoolers are only good for spelling bees or something." Well, Tim was there to change that perception in a big way. He later received the Kwakwa Protege Award as an outstanding homeschool graduate. Tim wasn't just good at football, he was amazing at baseball too. In his junior year, he helped Nice's baseball team make it to the state tournament. Tim did not play baseball his senior year as he finished high school early to attend college. His coach said Tim had all the skills to play professional baseball, but Tim's heart was in football, so he chose to focus on that. He would have been drafted by MLB teams had he not been devoted to football. Tim went to the University of Florida and became a star under coach Urban Meyer. In his first year, he helped the team win a national championship. Even though he wasn't the starting quarterback yet, Tim played important roles in key games. In his second year, Tim became the starting quarterback. He had an incredible season, setting records and winning the Heisman Trophy, which is given to the best player in college football. He was the first sophomore to ever win this award. Tim continued to shine in college. In 2008, he led the Florida Gators to another national championship. He was known for his leadership, hard work, and faith. Before the 2008 season began, Tim declined an invitation to be included in Playboy magazine's preseason All-American team. Tim explained that being a member of Playboy's list would go against his Christian Christian faith. In fact, Tim was known to wear Bible verses written onto his eye black during games. This practice was eventually banned by the NCAA in 2010 through the Tebow rule. Tim Tebow's time at Florida was legendary, but that season wasn't without its challenges. On September 26th, during a game against Kentucky, Tim suffered a scary moment. He was hit hard by a Wildcats player, stayed motionless on the field for minutes, and later vomited on the sidelines. He was rushed to the hospital, but thankfully, he was cleared to play just 2 weeks later. On Halloween night, in a game against Georgia, Tim made history. He ran for 2 touchdowns, including his 51st rushing score, breaking Herschel Walker's SEC record for career rushing touchdowns. Florida made it to the SEC championship game, but lost to Alabama, 32-13. Instead of competing for another national title, the Gators played Cincinnati in the Sugar Bowl. Tim made sure to go out with a bang. He threw for 482 yards, rushed for another 51, and scored 4 total touchdowns, setting a BCS Bowl record with 533 yards of total offense. It was a perfect ending to his college career. After college, Tim was drafted by the Denver Broncos in the first round of the 2010 NFL Draft. Many people doubted his ability to succeed in the NFL because of his unusual throwing style, but Tim proved them wrong, at least for a while. Tim had some exciting moments in the NFL, including a playoff win against the Pittsburgh Steelers. However, his career didn't last long. After 2 seasons with the Broncos, he was traded to the New York Jets. He also had brief stints with the New England Patriots and Philadelphia Eagles, but he couldn't secure a permanent spot on any team. When football didn't work out, Tim didn't give up. Instead, he turned to baseball. In 2016, he signed with the New York Mets organization and played in the minor leagues for 5 years, but he didn't make it to the major leagues. Tim's life isn't just about sports. He is also a motivational speaker, author, and philanthropist. He started the Tim Tebow Foundation to help people in need. His foundation supports children with special needs and fights against human trafficking. Tim's kindness and faith continue to make a difference in the world. His journey is full of highs and lows. He went from being a football hero in college to struggling in the NFL. He tried his hand at baseball and found a way to keep going, even when things didn't go as planned. While Tim Tebow may not have had the perfect sports career, his life is an example of hope and resilience. He inspires people to never give up, no matter what challenges they face, and that makes his story truly special. One might wonder how he fell despite overcoming so many challenges in his life. Tim Tebow's NFL journey became his greatest challenge, a relentless test that ultimately led to his sudden and bittersweet downfall. The sudden downfall of Tim Tebow. Tim Tebow is one of those sports figures who seem to be everywhere and nowhere at the same time. Once upon a time, he was the golden boy of college football, unstoppable, charismatic, and plastered all over the sports pages. But then something happened. He sort of faded away from the NFL, popped up in baseball, of all places, and left everyone scratching their heads. What's the deal with Tebow? Why did things play out the way they did? It's a story that starts with a bang, builds up into a frenzy, and ends with a surprising tragedy. Tim Tebow was unstoppable during his college years at the University of Florida. He wasn't just good, he was making history. In 2007, he bagged the Heisman Trophy, becoming the first ever sophomore to win it. But that wasn't all. He also picked up the Maxwell Award and the Davey O'Brien Award. With all those trophies, he wasn't just a star, he was the star. That's when Tebow mania really took off. People loved him, adored him, and practically worshipped him. For a 25-year-old with a Heisman Trophy, 2 BCS championships, and even a statue in his honor, Tim Tebow's descent from football's heights to its forgotten shadows remains one of the most talked about collapses in modern sports history. Tim had defied the odds at every stage of his life, from his miraculous birth to his mother refusing an abortion despite life-threatening complications to his dominance in college football. To bet against Tim seemed almost sacrilegious. To understand Tim's downfall, we must first revisit his time in Denver. The 2011 Broncos started their season with a dismal 1-4 record. Head coach John Fox was reluctant to rely on Tim, whose throwing mechanics and decision-making were glaring weaknesses. Yet, public pressure grew, and Fox finally benched Kyle Orton in favor of Tim during Week 5. When Tim entered the NFL, the excitement was unreal. At 6'3" and 230 pounds, he was built like a tank. The Denver Broncos snagged him as their first-round draft pick in 2010, hoping he could be the key to their future. By 2011, he was the starting quarterback by Week 7, and boy, did he deliver. Tebow led the Broncos on an 8-game winning streak and even got them into the playoffs. Games were won with as little as 2 completed passes, chances, thanks in part to an inexplicably revitalized defense and offensive line. Tebowing became a cultural phenomenon, and Tebow mania stretched beyond the NFL, making him a global icon. But this success was short-lived. The Broncos were blown out 45-10 by the New England Patriots in the next playoff round. While fans forgave the loss, John Elway, the Broncos president, recognized that miracle comebacks couldn't sustain long-term success. When Peyton Manning became available, Elway seized the opportunity and traded Tim to the Jets. His throwing game wasn't exactly polished, his passes were often wobbly, and his throwing mechanics, well, let's just say they needed a complete makeover. Coaches seemed to gloss over those issues because he could run the ball like a freight train. Instead of fixing his flaws, they leaned into his strengths and just passed him along like a hot potato. Not the best strategy for a long NFL career. When the Broncos faced the New England Patriots in the playoffs, everything fell apart. The coach told Tebow not to run, yes, the one thing he was actually amazing at. Instead, he was forced to play as a pocket passer, but it didn't work. The Broncos' offense fell flat, and they were sent packing after their first playoff game since 2009. Despite his success with the Broncos, Tebow was traded to the New York Jets. When Tim joined the New York Jets in 2012, his fall from grace had already begun, a stark contrast to the meteoric rise that had once made him a household name. This time, they made him a wildcat quarterback, which basically meant he was only there to run. It was like hiring a chef, but only letting them wash dishes. Unsurprisingly, that didn't last long. After one season, the Jets let him go. Tebow bounced around a bit after that, landing with the Patriots and the Eagles, but he never played another regular season NFL game. After his NFL dreams fizzled, Tim took a hard left turn, straight to baseball. The New York Mets signed him, and he's been playing in their minor league system. Unfortunately, the COVID-19 pandemic threw a wrench into things, sidelining minor league baseball for a while. Still, Tim remains a fascinating figure, a guy who went from football phenom to baseball hopeful, all while keeping his fans cheering him on. Maybe Tim wasn't built for the NFL, but he's got heart, and sometimes that's what matters most. Tim's move to New York marked the beginning of the end. The Jets were already a team in turmoil, coming off a disappointing 8-8 season. Their starting quarterback, Mark Sanchez, faced criticism for his inconsistent play and perceived lack of work ethic. Tim's arrival, marked by a press conference grander than any Sanchez had ever received, was supposed to provide a spark. Instead, the 2012 Jets became a disaster. Sanchez's struggles continued, and Tim's role as a wildcat quarterback under offensive coordinator Tony Sparano was poorly defined. The once hyped Tim became more of a distraction than a solution. Critics began to question not just his on-field abilities, but also the logic behind the Jets' decision to bring him on board. By the end of the season, Tim had played sparingly, and the Jets missed the playoffs. His presence meant to unite the team had instead highlighted its dysfunction. Tim's story is a harsh reminder of the NFL's unforgiving nature. Unlike college football, where heart and determination can elevate a player, the professional league demands specific physical traits and technical precision. Tim, despite his accolades and intangibles, struggled with basic quarterbacking fundamentals. His throwing motion was awkward, his footwork inconsistent, and his ability to read defenses subpar. This wasn't the first time the NFL had seen a great college player falter, but Tim's high character and immense popularity set him apart. Fans admired his work ethic and his deep faith, which he often credited for his success. Yet, in a league focused on results, these qualities weren't enough to keep him afloat. What made Tim unique wasn't just his performance on the field, but his persona off it. His faith-driven actions, such as spending spring breaks circumcising children in the Philippines or speaking out against abortion in Super Bowl ads, resonated with many. He became a symbol of hope and determination, qualities that transcended sports. Even in his darkest moments, Tim's faith kept him grounded. When he played catch with a wheelchair-bound fan an hour after a game, away from the cameras, it was a testament to his character. Yet, as much as these moments endeared him to the public, they couldn't shield him from the harsh realities of professional sports. After his time with the Jets, Tim's NFL career never recovered. Stints with the New England Patriots and Philadelphia Eagles ended before the regular season. Despite his relentless optimism and efforts to improve, the league had moved on. Tim's name, once synonymous with success, became a cautionary tale of unmet potential. Tim Tebow wasn't just a football player, he was a phenomenon. Even during his time on the Denver Broncos roster, when he was relegated to backup status, there was hope. But hope and determination, as Tim's story would show, are not always enough to sustain a professional football career. By the time Tim landed in New York, his name had become synonymous with quarterbacking ineptitude. The NFL, consumed by numbers and bottom-line performance, had little room for a player who struggled to complete passes and make critical reads. His NFL downfall wasn't the only tragedy he faced. There were other heartbreaking events that unfolded around him. Other tragic events. As beautiful as the love Tim Tebow and Demi-Leigh Nel-Peters share is, it is sad that what brought them together ended in tragedy. Tim Tebow's relationship with his wife, Demi-Leigh Nel-Peters, is a love story that spans continents and experiences, blending faith, family, and shared values. While Tebow was already known as a star athlete, his bond with Nel-Peters captured the public's heart for its authenticity. Nel-Peters, born in South Africa, had already achieved notable feats before meeting Tebow. She became a high school leader, serving as president of her student council and even as junior deputy mayor at just 17. Her academic ambitions included earning a business management degree with plans to pursue an MBA. However, it's not just her accomplishments in education and pageantry that define her. Her life took a powerful turn after she became a victim of a carjacking in South Africa. Despite the traumatic incident, Nel-Peters used the experience to become a voice for empowerment, partnering with Women Empowered to teach self-defense to women across South Africa. This focus on empowerment and fighting for women's safety became a key part of her mission following the incident. In addition to her advocacy, Nel-Peters was no stranger to the world of pageantry. Her victory in the 2017 Miss South Africa competition led her to Miss Universe 2017, where she not only became the second South African to win the prestigious crown, but also made waves with her impactful stance on issues like equal pay for women. Her bond with Tebow deepened after they met at a charity event for Tim's Tim Tebow Foundation, which organizes Night to Shine, a prom night for those with special needs. The couple quickly connected, and their relationship flourished with family as a central theme. In early 2019, Tebow proposed to Nel-Peters in an elaborate and emotional ceremony, complete with a surprise diamond ring and a serenade by singer Matthew Mole. Their whirlwind engagement, followed by marriage in 2020, was a true testament to their shared faith and values. Tebow had always mentioned that his ideal partner would have chemistry, character, and a strong foundation in faith, and it was clear that Nel-Peters embodied all of these qualities. Tim Tebow and Demi-Leigh Nel-Peters have been through a roller coaster of emotions in recent years, but one of the most heartbreaking moments came when Demi-Leigh's 13-year-old sister, Franje, passed away. Franje wasn't just any little sister, she was the glue that brought Tim and Demi-Leigh together, quite literally. Let me explain. Franje was born with a rare condition called cerebellar agenesis, which means her brain developed without a cerebellum. It affected her ability to walk, talk, and live a life many of us might take for granted. Despite her challenges, she was a radiant force of joy and love, the kind of person who leaves a mark on everyone she meets. Tragically, Franje passed away suddenly, and her loss left the family devastated, but also grateful that she was no longer in pain. Now, here's where it gets even more touching. Franje played a pivotal role in Tim and Demi-Leigh's love story. They first crossed paths through one of Tim's charitable projects called Night to Shine. This foundation celebrates people with special needs, and Franje's family was invited to attend one of the events in South Africa. Sparks flew between Tim and Demi-Leigh, and they kept talking, but they haven't stopped since. Talk about fate working its magic, right? After her sister's passing, Demi-Leigh shared a heartfelt tribute on social media, calling Franje her little princess and angel on earth. She painted a beautiful picture of her sister laughing, running, and playing in heaven, something the family always dreamed she could do here on earth. Nel-Peters told sympathizers that even though their hearts were aching beyond measure, they were still grateful, knowing she was forever relieved of the pain she experienced on earth. She thanked them for all their prayers, love, and support. Tim also shared his own tribute, calling it their loss but heaven's gain. The love and support poured in from fans, friends, and even other beauty queens from Demi-Leigh's Miss Universe days. The loss of Franje was not his only tragedy. He was scorned by both opponents and fans for his choices. Tim Tebow isn't just any NFL quarterback. He's a walking, talking debate topic. Not because he's the first athlete to wear his faith on his sleeve, but because he does it in a way that stirs people up. Tim is as much about praying hands as he is about passing yards, and that unique mix has put him smack in the middle of a national argument about religion's place in sports. Tebow's second season with the Denver Broncos wasn't just about football struggles, it was about faith, criticism, and whether the two can coexist on the field. His fans, they adore him, not just for his touchdowns, but because he's unapologetically himself, a devout Christian who's not afraid to kneel in prayer after a big play. And his critics, well, they're not shy either. Some think his faith is over the top, others simply believe he's not NFL material. Either way, Tebow was drawing as much attention off the field as he was on it. At one point, Tebow's signature move, kneeling in prayer on the field, which turned into an internet meme called Tebowing, was mocked by people. Even his coach wasn't fully convinced, offering lukewarm support. One Denver columnist went so far as to call Tebow the worst quarterback in football. And then there was the Canadian writer who labeled him the Kim Kardashian of sports. But here's the thing, Tebow's appeal isn't just about his skills, or lack thereof. He's polarizing because he makes people talk about things that go beyond the scoreboard. His anti-abortion Super Bowl ad sparked plenty of debate too. too. His critics see him as overrated, overexposed, and maybe even a little preachy. Some fans, on the other hand, view any criticism of Tebow as an attack on religion itself. Even his endorsement numbers tell a story of tragic fate. When Nielsen Sports first measured his popularity, his appeal was off the charts. But by the start of this season, those numbers had dropped. Some fans still adored him, but more people were starting to find him annoying or overrated. Kurt Warner, a former quarterback who's also open about his Christian faith, pointed out an interesting dynamic. Warner says that when athletes thank God after a win, some folks see it as claiming divine intervention, and when they lose, those same people scoff and say, "Well, where's your God now?" Tebow, Warner believes, is dealing with that on a much larger scale than most. It's not like Tebow's the only religious athlete in the NFL. In fact, Tim Hasselbeck, an ESPN analyst, estimates that about half the league shares similar beliefs. But Tebow's visibility, his willingness to put his faith front and center, and the way he's scrutinized make him face more criticism. For better or worse, he's become the guy everyone wants to talk about, whether they love him, hate him, or just don't get what all the fuss is about. If you enjoyed this video, just click on any of the cards showing on your screen to watch more content.